The law. Who, what?
Wait, one more time.
I'm sorry.
The law. Who, what, when, where, why, how, and whose fault is it? You might have heard of Congress, the nightmare chamber from which bills like the War Powers Act, the Hague Invasion, and the Patriot Act were passed. But did you know that each state has a tiny little Congress of its own? Put on your thinking caps and reminisce of the time when you had to worry about key terms like bicameral. If you're young enough to be thinking about those key terms right now, give me your money, nerd, and go back to AP Gov. The New Mexico State Legislature surprisingly looks a lot like that big Congress that we have. The House has 70 members, while the Senate has 42, representing everywhere from Spencerville to Jow. They either meet for 30 days or 60 days depending on the vibe, and in each year they can only consider a certain type of legislation. In even years, like 2024, they hold a 30-day session where they consider bills that have explicitly to do with the budget, and can only be involved with the budget. Did I mention they have to do with the budget? Guess what? Who decides what has to do with the budget? This guy, the bipartisan bully, the bald-headed beauty, Javier Martinez, Speaker of the House, and my Zaddy. This man, Javier Martinez, who decides everything based on vibes. The legislature is chock full of the best and brightest that the land of Mañana has to offer, including scholars, scientists, business owners, landowners, cops, oil barons, blogger. Let me tell you a little secret. New Mexico is the only state in the country without a paid legislature and without full-time staff. Sounds like that's a good thing, but it makes it a virtuous public service, and it prevents from running for political office to make a political career. And if someone I would argue that's actually kind of bad because it incentivizes people who generally have more money to do these things. It incentivizes corruption because if you're working in one industry like the oil and gas industry and then you go into office, you're probably going to be a bit better at oil and gas. The legislature, they have to rely a lot on lobbyists. Lobbyists don't always have their best interests at heart because they could work for Chevron. Once you consider the legislature is only 7% female and percent Native legislatures in here, even though we make up at least 12% of the population. It's really bad. Class and financial ability should not impact whether or not you get to serve your community. Intelligence and compassion should. But with titles like chemical castration for sex offenders, raising quail without a permit, punishable by death at certain abortions, and New Mexico border barrier, New Mexico isn't sending its best. And you know who all of this has the worst impact on? You, the constituent. Like, yeah, if you live in a rich part of town where everybody has fancy houses and flexible schedules, you're probably fine. But what if you don't? What if you live in an area that's even a little bit more impoverished? Proper representation to you might look like somebody who's had those life experiences and can legislate for them. But guess what? Those people aren't running for office. They have shit to do. There are going to be a bunch of bills that make their way through the legislature this year that would help modernize it and bring it into the 21st century. Things like paying legislators, hiring and paying full-time staff that can help them study and help their constituents, lengthening the days of sessions each year, removing the barrier on what can be considered to be passed each year. Negative Nancy's will tell you that this just opens up taxpayers' pocketbooks for the benefit of the state's most powerful. When in actuality, what these things do is make it more possible for your local food bank volunteer or librarian, or teacher, or barbershop guy to run for office and actually make a difference. And I think in the long run, that's a pretty big improvement from having Chevron executive number 5 running your county.